But yes, so everybody, this is my friend Elise Hammond, and her and I worked together at WEB a whole lot, starting back when we did podcasting as freshmen for this show called The Outlet. And we would sit in a booth together and piece a whole bunch of audio stories together to make a giant podcast. And then by senior year, I mean, Elise was anchoring, producing, and doing about everything you could possibly do in a newsroom. And so I got to kind of see her just, rise up at WEB, which is our news station on campus, and really get a piece of everything. And now you're a producer in Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I guess just like the first simple question is just like you could just tell us about your job, Elise.
Okay. So I am a producer. So I do all of the behind the scenes type things for our newscasts. I usually work on either the 6 o'clock or the noon show. And basically I just do all of the writing, everything that you see on the screen and on TV. I kind of decide where that all goes and what it looks like, and everything that the anchor's reading, I'm writing. So it's a lot of writing. It's a lot of like kind of organizational research type thing. And it's really fast paced. It's really fun. And I really like it. So watching it all kind of come together.
Quickly, just like, how did you land that job post-graduation?
So I interned at the company that I work at now 2 years ago. So I kind of just made those connections while I was there during the internship. And I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I liked Knoxville. I love the station. And so I kind of knew that that was something that I was going to want to pursue after graduation. So I just kept in contact with those people that I had met, or kind of randomly I would send them things that I've been working on and ask for feedback, just something to like kind of keep me like at the forefront of their mind a little bit. And so then when it came time to like start applying for jobs, they actually called me and they were like, hey, so like, what are you thinking? Like, are you wanting to come back? And so I interviewed there and a couple other places, and kind of just always knew that I wanted to end up back there. So I think the biggest thing with that is to just keep being like kind of a squeaky wheel almost, and just kind of being around every couple months with like things that you're doing or things that you're working on, or just checking in to say hi.
And then I heard you, Drea, so you can go for it. Thank you, Elise.
So you said you type the stuff that goes up on like the news and stuff like that. Do you type it while it's live, or do you type it before?
We typed it all before. So we have this big kind of computer program with different lines in it. So each line is like a story in the newscast. So before, like, I would say 90% of my job throughout the day is just writing all of those stories. So then when it's live, then they're like reading what I had wrote throughout the day. And then my job during the show is just to kind of like time it and make sure that we are like staying in our like time slot and making sure everything kind of goes smoothly. So most of my job is like before the show is even on air.
Yeah, good question, Drea. That's what I always thought of producing as like piecing together the puzzle of like what the newscast is that you eventually see, and also just along the lines of, I feel like what I remember was when you're an anchor, so people on camera, you're mostly stressed out during the actual show. When you're a producer, you're stressed out both before the show and during the show, because you're the one that's like in charge of making sure that both run really smoothly. It is the most important job. I mean, I would say like the newscast wouldn't happen without a producer. I'm saying. Also, Miss Staley up there is my co-teacher, Elise. So her and I take on this class together. And so yeah, just so you see, that's another face, you can put a name to the face. But good question, Drea.
Yes, I write. In addition to stories, I also write all of the like teases, all of the headlines, all of the like promotional things that the anchors record that run throughout the day. So I do. That's like the hardest things to write, though, is the headlines and the teases. They're not as straightforward, but yeah, I do that.
Yeah, good question, Mike.
So like when you're like during the show on air, are you like just sitting at a computer? Or are you the type of person who's like running back and forth, checking on everything?
I am sitting in the control room usually, and the computer program that we write everything in, we also use to time the show. So basically, I'm just like putting out fires from that computer. So if something goes wrong, I'm calling somebody who is like all the way in the studio or all the way across the building. My job is also to talk to the anchors during the show. They have like a little earpiece in, and I can talk to them and tell them what's going on. Like if there's breaking news and we need to add something real quick, or like if a video isn't working, or like all of those little problems that kind of come up during the newscast, I'm managing from the control room with the director who is doing like all of the technical side of it. If that answers your question, I don't know. Maybe I just rambled about that one.
It does. Thank you.
Do you have a favorite part of your job?
Yeah. I think that my favorite part is probably when the show is on air. I think that like producing is just, it's such a weird balance between being stressed all day, and then when you finally see your show on TV, it's like a gratification almost, and you're like, oh, okay, like that's why I was stressed for 8 hours today. And I think just like the feeling of like accomplishment and like seeing like your work on TV, I think is the best part. But I also like that if things don't go good and maybe the show isn't one of the best, then you just start over the next day. Like it's just like you're just like, oh well, okay, you know, try better tomorrow. And it's like a whole new set of stories, a whole new scenario, and you can kind of just start fresh each day, whether it's good or bad. And I think I like that too.
Did you ever mess up?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, 100%. Like for example, the other day, I wrote a tease in the show for a story that wasn't even in the show at all. So the anchor was reading about a story that just didn't exist, and it just never came on. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're gonna get an email from my boss about that one because that was bad. But yeah, I mean, everybody kind of messes up, but it feels very much like a team job. There's a lot of like different moving pieces, so other people are always there to like kind of help you with things that you need. Yeah.
Okay. So you said that you went straight out of college. Is that right?
Yeah.
On your first day, did you get nervous? Like on a 1 to 10 scale, how nervous are you?
I was nervous. I think I was probably like a 4 on the nervous scale. I wasn't that nervous because I had been there before. I knew a lot of people in that newsroom. The way they kind of operated was familiar because I had been around it. I think that if I was in a newsroom that I maybe only had visited one time to interview, I would be more nervous. But I just think that this job felt pretty comfortable. Like I felt really prepared going into it. I knew I could do the job. Like I knew that I wouldn't have any problems with the actual job side of it, and I knew a lot of people there, so I felt pretty comfortable. But there's always like first day jitters for sure.
That's cool. I just want to hop in real quick to completely off topic, say that I love your Blue Ridge Mountain cam pictures, Elise.
So that I can get to it's kind of become my like little staple, like little joke around the newsroom that I got those cameras in again.
So when you make the headlines and the overlays on the screen for the news, what program do you use?
We use EMPS for all of the writing and the script writing, and then we use It's called, it's called Axis. That's what it's called. And that's what we make all of our graphics. So like all of the like full screens or the like little lower thirds at the bottom of the screen, we make those in a Axis program. For like the video editing side of it, I know that this is like a video production class. We have editors who we will send them the videos that we want them to download, and they'll edit and attach it into the EMPS program.
That sounds like a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot of different things to remember and to kind of be juggling all the time. So I think like the biggest thing is like multitasking and being able to kind of do several things at one time, because there's a lot of things that.
Oh, I got another question. On average, how much sleep do you get a week?
That's a good question. Actually, more sleep than I did in college. I was a literal nut in college, so this is like much better. But I don't know. I get a decent amount of sleep. I work another job too, so I work a lot, and sometimes I also work like early morning hours, where I wake up at 2:30. So those days I don't get a lot of sleep, but the other ones I do.
And then I will ask the question on the flip side of that. Then when you are down, super tired, low energy, what makes this worth it for you?
Yeah, there's definitely days where I'm like, like I don't want to go to work. Like it just feels like, every day is kind of stressful and fast paced. And like sometimes it's hard for me to like be like, okay, like not get in the mindset to where you need to get this done. But I think there's always a point where I start doing it and I kind of get into like what the news is today, and I get into like seeing people and talking to people, and really just I like the excitement of it being fast paced. So once I'm like into it, then I'm into it. And the days go really fast because I'm like constantly busy. But I don't know. That's a hard question. I think that the flip side of journalism and news is I think that you need to take time to like turn off from it, and like on the days that you are off to not be so engaged and so connected into what's going on, because it's just like it's very hard and it would like wear on you mentally. You need to like take time to detach from it a little bit.
What made you want to get into journalism, like in general?
I just think that I don't really see myself doing much else. I didn't want something that was going to be the same every day. And I think that was like my biggest driving factor when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. And so this was something that was like always changing, different stories, different, people. Like it was something that was always fresh and new. And I just didn't want something where I would like be sitting, at a desk and doing something 5 days a week that was the same. And I think I also really I love writing, and I love like the researching and kind of like digging into things. So it was kind of like a good combination of the two. I think I picked producing specifically because you're definitely like the boss, and you have a lot of control over like what is going on, especially with other people. You really have like you have control over a lot, and your hands in a lot of different places. And so I liked, that kind of control and leadership.
Mahogany, yes, go for it.
I just want to know, since you chose this job and you've been working at it for a while, would you have chosen another job or something?
I don't think I caught that. Can you say it one more time?
Basically, all I asked was like, would you choose a different job if you could?
I don't think so. I'm thinking about going back to law school and being in kind of like First Amendment media law. So still being in journalism and being around the news and being around media, but just kind of in a little bit of a different capacity, because I think a lot of people who are producers or reporters or are kind of in this like fast-paced day-to-day job burnout pretty easily. So I am thinking about like kind of long-term what I would want to do. I think that I am also interested in like kind of management or like being a news director or kind of having a managing position at a news station, but I've never thought about being an astronaut. That's a good consideration. Let me take that into thought. I don't know. Yeah, I really love journalism and I love the news. So I don't think I could see myself doing anything that's radically different.
Until they need journalists on Mars, then we got astronaut journalists.
Then sign me up.
Those will be the days. Am I right, everybody? All right. Michael, I saw that you had another one. Thank you again, Elise. That was good. Appreciate that.
So you said you write like a majority of your day is writing stories, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel uncomfortable or like rethink what you're doing because the story is like touching or something, or?
Yes.
Right.
I think this has happened to me recently. We had one day that was like really bad news. It was like the whole day was like terrible, terrible stories, like tragedy, and it was just really hard to like get through it. And at the end of the day, I just felt like really like sad and like really depressed and like really heavy. And I just like, yeah, there's definitely days where it's just overwhelmingly bad, but there's also days where there are things that are good and you kind of get to spotlight those things that are happening that are good, or things that are funny that you get to make a decision to show on TV. But that's definitely the hard side of it. And I think that kind of goes with what I was saying about being able to, kind of turn off from the news for a little bit after work, kind of decompressing, because that part is hard. Yeah. So
like when you're writing a story that has like tragedy or is really touching, it feels like you're in their shoes? You feel their pain?
Yeah, definitely. And for example, we just had this trial for a really, really like horrible murder case. Like this girl and a guy like were kidnapped and tortured and killed, and there was a press conference with the victims' parents. And so like just listening to them talk about it, like from their perspective, and like listening to what they had to say, it was like really hard because you could feel like their emotion. And so having to like kind of write that and still just be factual and just not let that like kind of creep into your writing is tough, because you definitely can feel what people are feeling.
Yeah, sometimes it can have lasting effects. I mean, I think Elise and I can both attest to the fact that we heard from a lot of speakers during our time at OU who've been doing this for probably 20 plus years, veterans in the field. And yeah, sometimes it never does get easier. And so, but I also don't think it should, because the whole, like, you want to be connected to the people you're talking about, right? And so I think if you lost that connection and you were numb to it, probably be a little bit concerned about just how you were doing. So,
and I think that's what I learned a lot about local news and local journalism, is because you like really are part of the community and you live here and you know a lot of people here, and it feels more like impactful even with those bad stories.
All right, anyone that hasn't asked a question yet, I want to give you guys chances too. Still got a good amount of time.
Ask a question while we're waiting?
Yeah.
It might have been asked already, but Do you have like a favorite story that you've had so far? Like,
Oh, that's
do you know what I mean? Like,
actually, speaking of astronauts, that jogs my mind. I do I do the noon show sometimes, which is really fun. It's like a great mix of like feature stories and hard news, and it's an hour-long show. So I will set up guests to come on and talk and like have pre-produced segments and do like longer interviews. And one time I got a guy from NASA. It was like right before they sent that rover to Mars, and I got him to call with one of our anchors, and it was really interesting. And I just thought that was so fun and so cool. I don't know if my viewers liked it. I hope so, but I think that was one of my favorites. I just did, I was in college for 4 years. I just did a bachelor's degree. I don't think that I think a lot of people in journalism have a master's degree, but I don't think that you necessarily need to. It's more about connection and experience, mostly experience. What are you guys interested in doing?
Writing and books, probably. Actually, more than likely books, so I like writing.
Well, hello, aspiring scientist in this group, Connor.
Astronaut stuff.
Yeah, Kenyon is most definitely gonna be the evil scientist out of this whole group. I guarantee it.
He's gonna be the Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
But I want to be a culinary chef,
Cool.
which has nothing to do with writing, but I just wanted to say it.
But you can make some really killer videos with some of these skills that you're learning that'll make you even more famous for what you do.
and
Anyway,
cookbooks, and when you become the next Iron Chef, like all this stuff, it'll come in handy.
We're trying to find ways to just connect anything that they want to do with, okay, now how can they use video skills, editing skills in Premiere? How can they use production skills and then writing to help that out in some way? So if they want to be a nurse, like we can show that, hey, like at some point, your hospital writes newsletters, right? I mean, there's always something you can do in any field that journalism skills will help you in. And so I think that's kind of been the fun thing about this class, is just showing them that like you don't have to specifically be a news reporter or like a newspaper writer to use these skills. There's just a whole wide umbrella of possible jobs. So that's been kind of cool to just see where that's leading them and what they're thinking about.
This is kind of similar to what Michael asked. He asked you something about like if you ever get like feel like the stories that you write about. Do you ever get like you ever get so mad at something that you didn't want to write it?
Yeah. I think that this has happened to me a lot with stories like about sexual assault or like about that kind of violence like on campus, and like just coming out of college and knowing like firsthand that happens, knowing people that's happened to. I think that those kinds of stories make me like really angry, and like they're hard to write because I'm just like they just make me mad. But you kind of just have to like push it aside. I don't know. That's definitely a tough topic for me to write about. There's something I will add. Something else that is tough when you're writing is sometimes you work really hard on something, and I mean, this is East Tennessee. There's a certain type of people that live here who maybe don't necessarily like the media, and you'll come out of the booth after your show and there'll be just like 10 nasty emails about like what was on TV, or like they will just totally attack your anchors and your reporters and attack everything that like you worked on all day. And so that's also really hard to just let that go. There's literally nothing you could do about it. So I think the like hateful comments is another aspect that is hard about this job.
Yeah, and that's always stuff you don't see if you're removed from it, right? Like if you look at just the TV and you watch, you're like, oh man, that was a great newscast. You don't always see that, but when you're around journalists and you're around the news station, you do. Yeah, I feel like you would notice that, especially obviously being there and feeling that backlash, especially right now. So,
people
man,
typically very
Mr. Conrad, I know you said we gotta wait until 15, but when you're done with like the show, I guess, like at the end of the day, what is your go-to snacks?
What did you say at the end?
What is your go-to snack?
Snack. Oh.
like at the end of a day, a long day.
Animal crackers.
I love animal crackers for sure. I pack those for lunch. I think my go-to snack is I've been on a Wendy's Frosty kick recently. So we like those. And there's one on my way home, so I just always go through the drive-thru. Or it's brown. It's definitely some kind of chocolate.
Have you ever tried a UDF malt?
No.
They're really good. It's the ice cream, but it has milk in it, so it's basically like a Frosty, but like there's a bunch of different flavors. I got like chocolate truffle, I'm pretty sure, with caramel in it. It's really good.
Yeah, I should try that.
Good
The
stuff.
best one is strawberry banana.
That's good too.
So really quick, Lissa also added a good question. If you've ever refused a story, Elise, but if you've gotten in trouble for it, like have you ever said like, no, this is not something that I can do myself?
No, because I think that, it's your job to report the news, report the story. So even if it's tough, if it's newsworthy, then I'm gonna write it. I have refused stories from PR people who have reached out to me to like try to set something up or set up an interview. And there was a point where they were like sending us things and I didn't feel comfortable with like taking the gifts. And I didn't feel comfortable like kind of doing the segment as they were like suggesting to do it. So, in those instances, I have said like, no, I'm sorry, like we can't go forward with that. But in terms of like my job in the station, we're all pretty much on the same page. And if it's newsworthy, we're gonna write it.
Okay. This is pretty much the same question that was asked yesterday, but how much creative freedom do you have?
A lot. This is one of the reasons that I really liked going to this station because I'm really interested in special projects and using the newscast in different ways that maybe it doesn't look like a conventional newscast, and kind of like being innovative and thinking of new ideas and new ways to show things. And they're really into that. My station is, and my managers are really good at prioritizing that kind of thing. So usually if I have an idea of something that I want to do, I just will do it. And they're really good at kind of helping you get to that point. But yeah, I feel like I have a lot of creative freedom and a lot of like room for innovation and to pitch ideas that I have, and they're always down to try new things. So I really like that about the station.
If like no anchor showed up and you had a chance to go on live, would you do it?
They would get fired. No. Yeah, we still would, because we would probably just call in somebody else or call in one of our reporters to go on air. But I mean, that's their job just like everybody else's. So, that would be like them not showing up for work. Plus, it's like they have the easiest job. They just show up and read stuff, and we would still go on. We just find somebody else to put there.
What did going to college, Elise, do for you that you wouldn't have been able to do had you not come to college? I know that's a big question, so there's probably a lot to answer there. So what opportunities did that give you that you wouldn't have had otherwise? And then, so double question right here. I know we shouldn't do this in interviews, but I'm gonna do it now. What's your dream job? Is there something that you're kind of aiming for? Are you aiming to be back at CNN, wherever you want to be, or what does that look like? So what did college grant you that you wouldn't have had otherwise? And then what is your possible goal or dream job in the future?
Okay. I think this is broad, but college helped me, when you asked me if I was nervous on the first day, college is what got me to the point where I was like, I could do this job like back of my hand. I could write this 30-minute newscast in no time. Like I got that like easily, because it's just kind of like practice and repetition and that kind of experience that I got at OU through our class, like News at Noon, and the professors kind of giving us feedback and giving us like critiques from people that have been in the real world, like getting all of that knowledge and all of that experience through classes and through WUB before I even went to my internship, much less before I went to my job, I think was like the most valuable. I think all of those journalism classes that I took where I got like really hard critiques on my writing and like, just like the feedback that you get from professors, I think is worth, I owe that to a lot of my success, because I don't think I would be as good of a writer without going to OU. And that's, a big part of my job. It's a big part of anyone's job. My dream job, I don't know. See, we'll have to figure that one out, because, CNN did offer me a job and I decided not to take it. I came here because I love TV and I love producing. So maybe in the future, if I'm looking for like more stable hours or, looking to move somewhere else, maybe I would go back to CNN. But I think that my dream job is to be like a news director and kind of run a newsroom.
Thank you for sharing all of this, Elise. You have been awesome. I appreciate you all for asking some good questions and just taking the lead in that. And I felt like I was able to just sit back and listen, which I really loved. And those of you that took notes, feel free to send them my way too. And yeah, thank you so much, Elise. This was so good.
Thanks for having me. Good
course.
luck.
Do you care if I give them your email too?
Go ahead. Reach out anytime if you have other questions or want to know anything else. Email me. Yep.
Any final words of motivation for students?
I think like just keep going. Like I was exhausted in college. I mean, tired. Like Connor should know. Like I was literally a mad woman. And I think just keep going and keep saying yes to things and keep, taking advantage of every opportunity, and you'll be fine. You'll be prepared for whatever you want to do, whether that's cooking or being an astronaut. You got it.